being in the locker room or the changing room and that whole kind of like, slightly kind of macho machismo kind of vibe just, was not my place. So I skipped the whole thing.
In this episode, my friend Ashley in UK joins me. Ashley is one of our original collaborators when we started our pages. We talk about leaky faucets. We talk about all the troubles and triumphs of being a content creator. Enjoy the show. Welcome, everybody. I have my OG OnlyFans, Instagram, pandemic, you name it. Here's
Hmm.
my friend Ashley out of UK. Ashley, please come on and say hello.
Hi. It's good to see you, Will. I haven't seen you for a long time.
So same here. At least I haven't seen you in real time in a long time.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I'm
And of
constantly.
course, you've invited me to do a podcast, and what I've done is put a mint in my mouth.
Oh,
So
that's okay.
apologies for all the kind of
That
slurping sounds.
it's funny actually. Like I don't usually start my day until 9 o'clock. And so for me, it's like, oh my God, I still have to get the lights set up for this episode. And I rolled out of bed. I came to the computer, start setting up, and I looked down, I'm still in my pajamas. I'm like,
Hmm.
no, I'm
Hmm.
not gonna be that, I'm not gonna be that girl.
Well, I'm naked below the waist, of course, darling.
Well, that is your uniform.
I'm not. It's freezing here. It's freezing. It's 5 p.m. here, so it's a little dark. So I have my light set up, which is a little harsh. But yeah, hopefully you can see me. And I'm not in my office. I'm in my spare room because it's a little cold in my office. So
Yeah.
I
Nice.
don't have
So, well,
quite the setup that you do.
yeah, well, welcome to the show. So this is our third season. I did a little bit of homework, Ashley, so I'm gonna let you have the microphone and talk a little bit and introduce yourself. But
Hmm.
I did some digging, and for those of you not familiar with um, Men of Yoga, so Men of Yoga, I said this time and time again, was an original concept from an OnlyFans idea. That's where
Hmm.
it started. And so that's why our handle is OF Men of Yoga. It's of Men of Yoga. And I did my homework here, and it looks like our first Instagram connection was January 11th, 2021.
Okay. Okay.
It's our 4 year anniversary, sweetheart.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
you look just the same.
I right. Well, if not hotter. We've got a good 4 years of looking ourselves in on camera and on video, like, oh, I can make some adjustments.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I'm in control of my content, so I never post anything where I look a little, like, oh,
Right,
yeah.
like exactly. Like here's your $5 video, here's a $15 video.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, we know. So let's just jump right into it. Ashley, tell everyone here how, let's just connect this and maybe connect the dots. Like how and why yoga, when, and then when did you explore being a content creator? And then let's talk about the current projects that you've got going.
Okay. So yoga, gosh, that does go back quite a long time.
Mhm.
More years than I care to really mention, but when I was about 19 or so, I started doing yoga. Somebody dragged me to an Iyengar yoga class, and I don't know if any of you know, but Iyengar is quite a strict form of yoga, really alignment focused, but quite kind of military style sometimes, depending on the teacher. But I loved it, and what I really loved about it was lying down at the end. I loved all the fun stuff that you do in Iyengar, but the little lie down at the end, the Shavasana at the end, was this kind of revelation for me. And that kind of got me hooked. Um, so my friend didn't go to yoga anymore, but I carried on going to yoga. And then I ended up doing a performing arts degree, majoring in dance. So lots of body stuff. It was the first time I'd really kind of got into a relationship with my body. So when I was younger, how long do we have, right? I was younger, at school, I never used to go to physical education at school. Like I just used to skip it. I used to, go and smoke behind the bike sheds, that kind of thing. But I just never went to it. So I didn't like the rugby. It was too cold, too muddy. I didn't like cricket because you might get hit by a ball. And then, I'm kind of queer identifying, so like being in the locker room or the changing room and that whole kind of like, slightly kind of macho machismo kind of vibe just, was not my place. So I skipped the whole thing. So by the time I was like 19, I'd not really done much with my body and then discovered yoga and discovered dance, did a performing arts degree. So I was living in Holland at the time, and I started teaching yoga kind of, unregulated. Nobody did that kind of thing or worried about that kind of thing, I guess, back then. I
Mhm.
was teaching dance as well, but I was teaching yoga as well. And then once I kind of finished with my dance career, some 8 years later, I decided to pursue yoga a little bit more and found myself in New York City, and I did gyrotonic and gyrokinesis. Gyrokinesis is a kind of a like dancer kind of form of yoga. It used to be called yoga for dancers.
Mhm.
And gyrotonic is with machines. So, everybody Google, it's kind of cool. Um, and so I was in New York City, I was teaching yoga, I was running a teacher training facility. Yeah, and it was really fun. I was in my
Yeah.
30s. I'd get out of the subway, I'd have my sunglasses on, I'd be in Soho, it was like really fun. And I was really poor.
Mhm. Of course. Of course.
hmm
Yeah.
So I met m my husband to be, and we decided to move back to England. We were able to get married here. You couldn't do that in the States at that point.
Mhm.
He's American. And, invested in property, did some, other work because I'm a nurse. So also a mental health nurse as well. So I kind of was doing that to earn money and stuff. And I kind of lost touch with yoga a little bit and then kind of found it again some years later. And I started teaching a form of yoga called Broga. It was trademarked
Mhm.
over there. And it was
Mhm.
kind of more of a fitness kind of yoga. So got into that. Classes became quite successful quite quickly. Lots of pairing up, I think, happened in those classes.
Yes.
And yeah, and
Lots
it's
of
not
broga
just,
activity. Is it talking about the broga still?
yes, the
Yes.
Broga classes, yeah, they were pretty
Okay.
successful.
Okay.
And it's not, it was just a fitness yoga, although it was kind of broga, it was kind of, aimed at any gender. And then started teaching much more yoga, so vinyasa, hatha, restorative, did my 500 hours, all that kind of stuff, and then ended up teaching at a yoga teacher training facility here in Bristol, UK. Teaching yoga teachers to be yoga teachers.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yoga teacher trainer,
Yoga teacher trainer. Yes. The yoga teacher educator.
educator. Yes, I'll go
Yes.
with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just like pay attention to like the yoga alliance. I just want to make sure that I'm crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. And so language.
Yeah. We have Yoga Alliance professionals over here. So I'm a senior yoga teacher, which makes me feel terribly old. Um, anyway, yeah, so that's kind of the yoga journey, I guess, in
Mhm.
a nutshell.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. So one is like what inspired you to jump in with Iyengar? Like so many different styles out there, and like was there a person that turned you on to it, like a referral, free class pass? Like,
Yeah, I don't even think it was a free class, to be fair. I think it was
yeah,
just a friend took me along.
okay,
So I didn't really have any relationship with it, and I was only going along in order to support my friend in a sense. I was like, oh, I'll come along, sure.
Mhm.
So it was a random chance thing.
Wonderful. That's amazing. Yeah, most of the things that you described about like growing up in high school and skipping PEs, I can't even believe you brought up smoking. Like I used to smoke after PE. Like, okay, I did the physical stuff. Now I'm gonna go have
Right,
my
yeah.
cigarette. You know what I mean? And yeah, I always did my best to skip that class, with the exception of soccer. I found I was good at soccer. I like running and I like chasing
Okay.
balls.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
natural. I sucked at basketball. I sucked at anything that you're going to fling a ball at me, because then I'd realize it wasn't until maybe when I was 16, I'd realized like I was nearsighted. So I couldn't see anything from afar anyway. So I just thought that I was just this nilly queen that got into sports, but I couldn't participate because I couldn't see what I was doing.
Right.
So, and then the other thing was, what else I got? Because of the climate here as far as politically with immigration, how did you end up in New York? Like what was your process to be in the US?
So I met my husband to be when I was living in Holland. So we started a
Okay.
relationship then.
Okay.
He was living in New York City, so he went to Juilliard, so that's kind of where he ended up staying.
Okay.
And, I visited and I was like, oh, cool. Like, this is going to be something, me and him. So I'll just move to America, I thought. Having lived in Europe and just moved from, the UK to Holland, which was open borders at that point, I just was like, I'll just go there, failing to realize that that was not really possible without a visa.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
So you went through the process. Okay.
So I went through the process. I really did go through the process. And so that's why, so I got a job, basically, somebody sponsored me. That's how it worked. Uh,
Nice.
yeah.
Okay. It's important because we are in touch with lots of yogis throughout the world. Humble brag, and people are always saying, "Well, I want to come to America." Like people from India, I want to come to America. And it's like I have, I had no idea what that process is. I just remember as a child, we came here as an immigrants, and we got our green cards. And after I
Mhm.
think 5 year minimum requirement, then you get to get sworn in so that you become a legit citizen of
Yeah.
USA. So good to know that there's a process. People, if y'all interested in come to US, that is the process. You apply for a visa, you come here, and then you get a working visa, and
Hmm.
it's legit. And then you get to
Yeah.
pay taxes like everybody else.
I did. Yeah. I have my social security card and everything.
Oh,
Do you know what
oh
the
yeah,
hardest thing was? Opening a bank account.
yeah. Was it really?
Yeah,
Because
it was a real faff. I can't remember now why it was such a faff, but I remember that being quite like tedious at the time. But yeah, it must have happened. Yeah.
hmm. So tell us a little bit about like teaching, and so I feel like you've tapped in all the things that in the pathway yogi who wants to take their yoga to a career level, right? So you go
Mhm.
get your 200, then your 500. Before you know it,
Mhm.
you're participating in teacher training, and before you know it, you're the lead educator.
Mhm.
Um, Studios. Tell me about the studios that what was it like for you? Did you automatic? Was it instant for you to find a studio that brought you in? And did you become a full-time teacher? How many hours did
Yeah,
you,
so yeah,
you know?
so I mean, mine's probably not a very traditional path because, I moved to New York City. I decided to, so I undertook this kind of gyrotonic and gyrokinesis training in New York City. So I got to know some of the teachers in the city, and gyrotonic gyrokinesis was developed in New York City kind of, I think in the 80s, late 80s. And so the nub of it was really there. The first generation teachers were there and stuff. And I kind of, if I want to learn something, I have a habit of trying to place myself in front of the people that were kind of there at the beginning. I want those kind of first generation kind of teachers. And so, I got to know people. So I ended up teaching in two studios, actually, both of them teacher training facilities. And yeah, so it was a bit of a different route because I also had this job where I was a studio manager. So I had a full-time job. So not only did I teach yoga and one-to-ones, that was mostly what I did. I also ran the studio, one of the studios that I was working in. So, I did have a full-time job, although frankly, I was earning peanuts. Um,
Mhm.
so it was quite
Yeah.
difficult to live.
Oh yeah.
And, a lot of my kind of peers, I guess, were kind of jobbing yogis or freelance yogis. So they were kind of bobbing around the city, teaching classes or clients or having privates, etc. So I suspect in New York City it's maybe easier. I don't really know. There's a lot of competition also. There's a lot of yogis there. So, but in Bristol, when I kind of finally kind of got back into yoga, I started teaching, a class a week at a studio. I had another job. So I never had the pressure that yoga had to be my primary income source,
Mhm.
which is great for me. I was going to say I was privileged to have that. Of course, I'm privileged, but at the same time, I worked hard, to
Sure.
get where I was in order that I could dedicate my time to that. And to be honest with you, teaching yoga on a class basis, class by class, you're never going to make an awful lot of money, to be fair.
Right.
The market just doesn't really sustain it. If people are paying, I don't know how much they pay where you are, but if they're paying £12, £15 a class, for example, that's probably the top they're paying. And then they're probably on a class pass or a discounted rate or something. So, you have to get kind of a lot of punters in to make that class really functional.
Yeah.
So I was never really doing it for the money, but then I ended up teaching, I don't know, 8 to 10 classes a week. So it was quite busy actually. And for me, of course, I was compensated for my time, but it was the sense of community in class, the sense of offering people a space to kind of challenge themselves and grow. That was really why I was in it. That was the fun part for me. The
Yeah.
money was, I wouldn't have done, I wasn't going to rock up there for free for sure, but the money was not primary, probably. That didn't keep me going back. Having said that, though, teaching in the teacher trainings is a different environment and it's, of course, more lucrative.
Hmm.
Yeah, and there are other ways to make the career work. So classes is one thing. Frankly, I think classes are kind of more or less a marketing tool because you're
Hmm.
not going to make your money from your classes. But once people get to know you, they might want to sign up for a workshop. They might want to sign
Right.
up for teacher training. They might want
Yeah.
to sign up for a private. They might want to sign up for a retreat. And that's
Right.
probably, more lucrative, I would suggest. Yeah.
Yeah. It's in US, it's yeah, it's been very competitive here. ClassPass has definitely changed the energy
Yeah.
of,
We have that in the UK also.
yeah, and it's amazing because it's like I see, the platform is, it's brilliant, except it's definitely taking away from, the profit margin for the little mom and pops, you know.
Exactly.
But we've been around for 15 years. Like Yoga Belly's been around for 15 years. And so we've seen things come and go. And we've seen phases and fads of different types of workouts, quote unquote. You
Yeah.
know, a friend of mine told me a long time ago, it's like, stick to your guns because yoga's been here for quote unquote 5,000 years. You know what I mean? So it's like it's been around and
Maybe
you
not.
know what I mean? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like if anything's gonna be if anything is gonna survive, it's gonna be yoga. Like, yeah,
Uh-huh.
and I believe that,
I
and
think
I
that's
also
probably a
believe,
truism. Yeah.
sure, and and another thing is like if you don't want to call it yoga, call it something else. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna lean in and say it's all yoga based at this point. Physical therapy, like you see those Pilates, you see those machines, and I've seen those hit classes. Like they're just like ramped up, sped up, and a little bit more electrified. But at the core
Hmm.
of it,
Hmm.
that's the message of yoga. Asana, change your shapes, circulation, so on and so forth. And yeah, I'm still in the game. As a matter of fact, it's going to be, 19 years of teaching for me in 2025 and practicing 20 because I jumped right into teacher training. You
Yeah.
know, yeah. And back in the day, I too was using yoga as a side hustle, and
Hmm.
I had a real paying gig. And then at some point when we made the switch, I'm like, oh, I'm doing God's work now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is no longer for financial gain. This is all about like the benefit of the world,
Yeah. I agree. And
you
that's a
know?
little bit what it was for me. And in a sense, I was kind of like the pandemic kind of killed it slightly for me because doing classes on Zoom just was not my thing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really struggled with that. There was no sense of community. What I would do when I was teaching, because like, I don't know if people, I guess people still must offer online classes. Gosh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But when I was teaching and I was teaching from my home and I'd like set my computer up and everything and I'd have my laptop kind of over there so that
Hmm.
there was enough of me on the screen to be seen and then I'd have like 20 little squares on my screen so I couldn't see anyone
Yeah.
unless I walked up to the computer and stared at the computer. It was just I couldn't see what they were doing. They could have been like having a cup of tea for all I know.
Yeah.
So I started pinning one student.
Hmm.
So I'd pin one student in the class.
Hmm.
I'd have 20 people in the class. I'd pin one student, and then I was able to actually interact and say, "Oh, good, good. Yeah, think about lengthening this or blah blah blah." I was able to take my cues from that one student.
Nice.
I think a few of them figured that out, but I didn't tell them. Yeah,
Wow. And so let's take it the next phase is the naked
yeah.
practice. Yeah. So I remember when I first started talking with you, like there's an exhibitionist in me, and I'm like, okay, and it's a performance.
You exhibitionist in you?
Was it you? You?
Uh-huh. I mean, I kind of always think that teaching is kind of like people like on the yoga teacher trainings, people talk about like being authentic. And I get
Hmm.
it. I totally understand that. At the same time, I don't think it's an authentic process because as a teacher, you need to step it up. So if you've
Yeah.
had kind of a shit day, or maybe your car's broken down, or maybe you had an argument with your partner, or whatever it was before class, you just need to like can it and put a smile on and say welcome and do
Hmm.
all of that holding space stuff. So that feels very inauthentic, actually.
Hmm.
You know, we might come to class and we might be just in that, kind of Zen state and everything's beautiful, but that is not how life rolls generally. So
Hmm.
often things will happen which will disturb us somehow, and then we have to rock up at class. And I say to the students, like, in a sense, like, let go of being authentic because that's really hard work.
Hmm.
Actually, sometimes you need to take a deep breath and like stick your performance face on and deliver, you know?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look at like the famous performers out there, like Madonna. I always bring Madonna into these shows.
I think I may
You
have
know,
heard that from you before.
oh, we're gonna go there. Like, at the end of the day, this podcast is really about Madonna.
Yeah. Where is she?
You
Are
know,
you in the same
yeah,
room that she's in? Because she's
yeah,
like on the
exactly.
wall somewhere, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I just use her for reference because she's been around for a long time, and if anybody knows how to like put on a show,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the benchmark, right? And as yoga teachers, like you kind of have to swallow that pill in terms of however you look at it, you still have to be in the presence of people, whether it's one person or five people, because they're coming to you to learn something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if there's anything that you could teach them is grace. Like, okay, I just had
Mhm.
this shitty ass day, but if I'm out to practice non-attachment, I'm
Yeah.
going to detach from that so that I could be here.
Yeah.
So in a sense it's very performative, but it's
Yeah.
performative for the sake of teaching people the grace of what it's like to practice yoga
Yeah.
and to actually teach in front of people and still have a shitty day. Like you can still have a shitty day and still have a good practice.
I think that teaching yoga is kind of really hard, if I'm really honest, because on the
Of
teacher training,
course.
sometimes I have people that are teachers, like they teach in schools or stuff, and like they have a whole bunch of skill sets that they bring to the yoga teacher training. But to teach the yoga, it's like you're having like several tracks playing at the same time. You have to like know what your sequence is. You have to kind of know what the time is. You have to keep an eye on your students. You have to like kind of reference like maybe postural stuff or maybe breath stuff or maybe give some nod to, kind of meditation and those other aspects. It's just a lot of layers you have to kind of layer into your teaching. You have to teach with your voice, teach with your body. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a pretty complicated thing to kind of master, I think.
Such a beautiful statement, man. I'm gonna share that clip with my upcoming teacher training. You know,
Oh,
uh,
yeah. I'll send you, you can send me the royalties, right?
yeah, yeah. You're such a hustler. You're like,
I
okay,
know, right? I am
I
such.
want points for that. So, okay, so speaking of layers, let's start stripping some of these layers.
So yeah, so let's take some of them off. So I think it was like in lockdown. So I'd had like an idea of teaching like yoga for men for ages. And I just never really went with it because I think it would have been difficult to have, literally kind of got the audience, like it's already kind of difficult, or it was back then, to get men into yoga anyway. That was like, maybe 20% of your classes was male identified. But so to set up a whole class for them, I'd never quite made it. But there was something about uh yeah, about the energy of the yoga class because it can be kind of female dominated. It certainly was.
Mhm.
And that can make it very intimidating for men or male identifying people to come up into the space. So, yeah, there was something in it already in my head about kind of creating a different space. And I don't know, people ask me like, are you a naturist or something? And it's like, no, I'm not really. If it's cold, I've got my clothes on. I'm like, I get freezing, I get really cold. And in England, it's freezing. Sorry, we like to swear. I almost swore then.
Oh, of course, of course.
Oh,
This is off the map, off the
excellent.
map.
I mean, I swear in class also. I mean, it's fucking freezing here in England half the time. Not as cold as some
Sure,
places, but it's certainly
sure.
cold now. So, I'm not kind of like, I don't whack the heating up and sit around naked, yeah? I'm not that kind
Mhm.
of person. But, certainly in the summer, I like to be feeling a little bit free, a little bit liberated.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think I was talking with a friend of mine, actually somebody I actually really know, but I was talking on Instagram during the pandemic, and I was like, I'm thinking of like setting up a, men's naked no yoga class. And he was like, do it. And I guess what was really worrying to me was I was like, will that affect my reputation as a yoga teacher trainer?
Mhm.
That worried me.
Right.
Um, and it took me a little while to kind of like get to grips with my thoughts about that. And I was thinking I shouldn't be shamed for just being myself and just having a body.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That is not
Totally.
my shame. That is not
Totally.
my shame. It's somebody else's shame. It's societal shame, but it's certainly not mine. And that was the kind of tipping point. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it.
Can you give me, for timeline's sake, what year, what circa, where are
Oh,
we in this timeline?
that was pandemic, so that must have been 2020, I guess.
Wow. So I just got a hold of you a year,
Hmm.
just okay. I got okay. But that makes me happy. You know, I feel sometimes like, oh my God, am I grooming these teachers?
No.
You know what I mean? Like, oh
I,
my God, hey, I have this idea. Well,
I
you know,
gave
there's
full consent. Yeah.
well, that's funny part because I actually, you know, you know them and they'll be on the show at some point. So my legendary three is Ashley and Marquise and Lino. And
Hmm.
yes, folks, you're gonna get to meet all three. And you know, like I didn't know what I was doing, but I kind of saw the content that y'all were putting out there, and I think you were the only one that's actually what you. I met you already doing producing this kind of content.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the other gentleman, I had to like figure out like, well, what is it you want to do? What are your boundaries, so on and so forth, because it was naked yoga, you know what I mean? And I felt a little bit awkward about like, am I asking y'all to do something that you don't do already? And so, but I come from a space of like the teacher and the content creator, what looks visually stunning. And at the end of the day, my goal was to, yes, I do like the clickbait idea, but I also want to turn people onto yoga.
Hmm.
That's really my jam. Just like you, I want to turn more men, you know, onto yoga because I think
Yeah.
more men on the mat, less assholes.
Uh-huh. I hear that.
Probably a kinder world, softer world. That's really at
Yeah.
the end of the day. It's like more guys, less drama in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry if not to offend guys, but that's why I'm doing this.
Well, we can go with a few generalizations, right?
Sure, just enough. Okay, so started dabbling, and where did you take the show? How did you start putting that in public?
Yeah. Do you know what? That is really interesting. I think I started a Twitter account, as it was known
Mm-hmm.
then, of course. Now I'm really having to rack my brains. I probably should have done some prep, right?
That's
Because
okay. Think of this is your documentary.
oh God, no pressure. I think Insta was like you just, I mean, Insta's Insta, it's a little prudish. So I think it was pretty much Twitter, and it was partly that kind of exhibitionist kind of side of me, but it was also partly about getting yoga out there, but also saying like you can, you know, I guess, the thing is about being naked is like being naked associated, with sexual activity. If I say again, stop me. I keep
I'll
saying it.
edit. I'll edit it.
You
I'm
edit
just kidding.
all your nose out, because there'll be nothing left. Um, But nakedness and sexuality is kind of like linked. It's like you get your clothes off, you have sex, right? So that's, oh, I did it again.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just about breaking that down. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Of course, it can be that way, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. And there's something about shedding your clothes, which is just about acceptance of where you're at right then and there. What I found, skipping forward a bit, was teaching naked yoga classes, was that we dropped our facades kind of at the door kind of thing when we took our clothes off. So it didn't matter, what job you did, what income stream you were, what intelligence you had, or so say had, etc. All of that was kind of out the window because we were just naked people together, moving and doing yoga. And there's
Hmm.
something liberating about that.
Yes.
There's also something quite liberating about just accepting where you're at. And, oh, I did it again. If you have the viewpoint that everybody is going to look fabulous doing naked yoga, you can let that go right now because you don't look fabulous doing naked yoga. There's a lot of like bits of your skin and fat bits and wobbly bits that kind of get in the way.
Hmm.
Um, if you think about doing, oh, I said it again, Garudasana or something, or some kind of cross leg thing,
Hmm.
you're going to get bits in the way. They're going to have to be moved out the way. Your stomach skin's going to have to be moved out the way.
Yeah.
It really allows you just to accept what is, because
Right.
we're not all perfect. And what we consume is some kind of edited version of reality. It's just not reality, of course.
Yeah.
Um, So there's something about the naked yoga which is, yeah, accepting, liberating,
Yeah.
and that's kind of
I
why I did it.
Somebody asked me a couple of days ago that they couldn't they don't know for themselves what was the big deal about practicing yoga naked. Like what is the allure? What is the benefit?
Mm,
And for me, it's like I never even thought about the benefit of being naked on a yoga mat, but I do say that there's a benefit of feeling freedom.
yeah.
Like, because you said earlier, it's like, yeah, we associate being naked to something like sexualized or whatnot. And so when you go in, it's like, what else can I do without my clothes on? You
Hmm.
could take a shower, you can
Hmm.
garden, and yes, you could practice yoga. Whoa. You know what I mean? So it it could be as big or as small of an idea, but
Hmm.
it's really about like just try it. Like, when was the last time you walked around your house naked? So I think if you're not a person who enjoys being naked, then yes, it's probably a concern or a curiosity. Like, why would you do that? I'm like,
Yeah.
well, some people just feel natural being naked already. So we're we're probably inviting those people to say, hey, you don't have to lock yourself up in a bedroom. You could also be amongst a community who
Yeah.
enjoys the freedom
Yeah.
of just us just being and flow, you know?
And there's something also about being naked and being seen naked as well.
Oh
I
yeah.
think that can
Well,
be, yeah, that
oh,
can be
oh,
really healing experience actually. And there's also something about the kind of what is not what should not be seen normally. So I guess, everything below the neck is kind of covered up most of the time. Maybe if you're on holiday, then you might have like your speedos on or whatever, or your trunks on, but there's still some part that shouldn't be seen. And the
right.
integration of all those bits, I think is quite interesting.
Yeah, I love that. And so when you start offering these classes, when did the idea of you like I'm going to create this now? Because you said you were on Twitter, now X, and then Instagram wouldn't allow you to post any of that stuff. And so when did you come across OnlyFans?
No, of course, that's a really good question that I don't know the answer to either. I think I wanted a side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it was also what I found starting to take pictures for, making content, was that it gave me a sense of liberation of myself, actually. Um, and also a sense of appreciation of kind of where I'm at and, yeah, where I'm at really. So there was something also a give back to me from making that content. And then I wanted to, yeah, make a side hustle basically. Um, and that's why I started the OnlyFans.
Do you remember like what year was it? During the pandemic? Was it
No, it was 2021. I'm pretty sure it was 21. I think
fascinating? Okay, because I
that's
know
my
we
first.
started ours in 2021, but it wasn't like later on, like springtime for us, I believe. I have to do a little bit of research on that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we
I
didn't
think I was.
Yeah, we didn't last very long because of their I wasn't quite sure about the release permissions. Like I thought that I had to like just send my own release forms. Everybody agreed, and then when we started picking up traction, we got some attention from OnlyFans saying you don't have the right paperwork and so on and so forth. And they gave me 48 hours to provide them, and then they shut us down.
Really?
Yeah, so I think maybe we lasted maybe 3, 4 months, maybe, but at the height of it, we had 420 followers,
Hmm.
which was super, super fast. You know what I mean? Compared to like how we bounced back. But I'm happy to report everyone that we're up close to 500 again on our all access free page. And so I'm very proud of that platform, by the way, because it does give us the freedom to explore other ways to put yoga out there.
Yeah.
And I think it's very sexy to see yogis who you adore drink coffee naked.
Hmm.
It's like, it's sexy, it's hot, and as a gay man, I'm like, fuck, I'm proud of that work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
They've changed a little bit over the years. I think it's a little bit simpler maybe to tag your content creators and all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. They don't require any of that stuff. So as long as you have an OnlyFans account, you can collaborate with people to have, rather than going through the motions of getting a
Yeah.
release form or whatnot. Um, yeah. So, do you want to tell me a little bit about you want to share a little bit about people can see on your page?
Yeah. So I have a free page. It's free to subscribe. And I go through phases of posting content. So, I have a busy life. That's not the only thing I do with my life. Especially in the winter when it's very cold. So I
Mhm.
post content as and when I can. I have no idea. Obviously, I'm posting some visual content, but I'm also writing a few words, not a long, long, long paragraph or a book or something, just a few words, which I hope are somewhat inspirational, maybe titillating, maybe just getting the juices going, but also maybe putting some ideas out there just about, slowing down or taking consideration those kind of more yogic ideas, we might say. Um, and that's free. That's free on my page. But I also post content which is paid content as well.
Mhm.
Sometimes I really am into the idea of doing more artistic, photography, nude photography. I
Yeah.
bought myself a decent camera. I want to collaborate with some photographers, etc. So some of that is that kind of work where I've taken much more time and energy into that. And some of it is yoga content. So there may be, videos of me doing yoga. There may be more instructional videos, etc. And occasionally I get the opportunity to collaborate with somebody else where there'll be, a duo or a trio doing yoga.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the kind of content. Sometimes it's a little sensual,
Spicy, a little
spicy.
spicy. Well,
Yeah,
what are you gonna do with this? This body can't be contained, sweetheart.
exactly.
A
And that's
tiger's
my
got to,
viewpoint.
yeah, a
That's my
tiger's got
viewpoint
to do
on.
what a tiger's got to do.
Uh-huh. Well, and that's about embracing all that you are, right? And
Yeah.
not being shameful for it.
Well, the funny part is like because I do follow your page obviously, and I'm like, oh look at we're massaging now. Okay, okay, like we're bringing somebody else into
That's a
frame.
new thing. That's a new thing, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm doing
yeah.
so I've decided to do so I've done a lot of kind of when you're in Shavasana and you can do like a whole Shavasana adjustments where you kind
Oh,
of
yeah,
do a lot
of
of,
course.
and it's a bit Thai yoga massage based. So I kind of that's already in my rep. Um
Yes.
and I've decided to do a little extra training. So I'm doing kind of more of a Thai yoga massage kind of training. So I'm going to offer that out. So hopefully that will also become some content to offer out. And I have also kind of received massage myself and made that content as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think, well, give the kids something new and exciting. At the end of the day, it's a connection. It is
exactly.
community. Like yoga is so expansive. Like I want to be one of those advocates of like, okay, when I see people when I see myself dance, it's like it's not just dance choreography. That's my yoga. That's how I practice my asana. That is my
Hmm.
flow. If you
Hmm.
want to do CrossFit, fine. It's if to me what makes it yoga is mindfulness.
Yeah.
If you're out there, if you're out there trying to shred your muscles or whatnot, and you're beating yourself up, you're like, I want to say that that's not a practice of yoga because you're not mindfully and
Hmm.
intentionally, you know, giving yourself this idea of just being whole. You're tearing yourself apart, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, to me, it's like when I see people create, that to me is a form of yoga. So whatever it is that helps people bring them into the frame, that, my friend, is yoga.
Yeah.
So
And I think it's for me, it's like you talked about mindfulness, and that for me, that's about acceptance. Here's where we're at. This is what is occurring now in my experience.
yeah,
And accepting where you're at, can lead to a more liberated state, I think.
yeah, and the other piece of that is also, it's like the creative piece of that. Like if you were given a canvas, it's like, okay, I'm going to draw a yoga pose. After 4 years, I'm like, okay, so I do the poses. What do I do with those poses?
Yeah.
You know, yeah,
Well, the
it's one
poses
thing
have
to
to
be,
serve a purpose.
well, absolutely, like it's
Yeah.
functional. And that's, and I offer, and now I'm now beginning to go back to my original uh, yoga self in terms of connecting with people physically again. Because during the
Mhm.
pandemic, obviously, don't touch. When we started making our way back into the physical space, it's like, I don't know if I want to massage people in the face or, in their
Right,
head
right.
because I'm too
Yeah,
close to the face. So touch was a no-no for me. And I've
yeah,
realized like I've lost that piece of me that I love. I
yeah.
love hugging on people. I love that connection, but I'm now just coming back to that, and I'm making sure that in my sequences I give myself time to do those things that I love doing.
Yeah.
you know.
So yeah, I remember a guy who used to come to my class. This is some years ago now, and he would come religiously to my class, and then occasionally I would do like a little shavasana adjustment, a little head adjustment, a little hands on, just kind of take a breath, that kind of thing, in the whole class.
Mhm.
And when I touched him, I often wondered if I was the only person that had touched him all week long.
Precisely.
And that's,
Precisely.
a pretty privileged, or I felt, honored to be that person perhaps that offered that little bit of human contact.
That's amazing. I love that. I just did a class a couple of days ago, and like 60-year-old little lady was ready for her back rub. I offer yin yoga and back rubs. So it's on the
Oh,
website, like no questions asked. If you don't want to be touched, there's another class that offers just yin.
what? Yes.
So I love like thinking like I don't know when was the last time you got a back rub, but now she gets it every week, you know. And also I have students that said, when you do those adjustments, because I love that. So if you want to do more, great. Or I see people like move their ponytail out of the way just to like signal.
They're like, I'm ready.
Yeah, they signal like over here. Yeah, so I love all of that stuff, man. How are you? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say also with the physical adjustments, there's something about placing one's hands on someone. I mean, we're assuming permission and consent and all of that stuff. Let's not get into all of that right now.
Mhm.
But there's something about placing the hands that kind of, we might call it an energetic exchange, etc. But there's also something about the skin to skin contact, which I think is also really important and really healing as well. And if you're
Yeah.
naked, you just have a little bit more skin out there.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. Are you offering naked yoga classes now publicly, or is it just on OnlyFans?
And yeah, I'm not at the moment. That is primarily because we moved house a few months ago, and I
Mhm.
don't currently have a setup that I can use. I have an office actually, but it's freezing cold in there.
Oh yeah,
It's not suitable for naked yoga right now, and I don't have a venue that I found in my new location. So I'm slightly on a hiatus. People are asking, but I haven't really figured that out. I'm offering private still because I have space to accommodate one person at a time, but I don't have space for a class, which is unfortunate. And the
okay,
trouble is with finding a venue is the venue needs to be warm enough.
sure,
It also needs to be private enough so that people feel contained and safe. So you
sure.
can't have like a studio which is like, the street is people walking by.
At the mall,
Yeah, or people are like wandering in randomly. That is not going to work in order for
yeah,
people to feel comfortable and safe to take their clothes off. I
sure,
want to
sure,
provide an environment which is contained and safe.
yeah. Did I already ask you about the online space, like offering online, or you don't do?
Yeah, I just haven't really. I mean, that could be something I should consider. I have been
Yeah,
busy perhaps, but I dumped online really in the pandemic. I was like, this is just not for me. I don't really enjoy it.
mhm.
And I know there are some other naked yogis out there who do online work, online classes, with some
Yeah.
success.
It's called Men of Yoga.
Uh-huh.
It's called Men of Yoga. Men of Yoga. We just started. We just started
Are you
offering.
doing live classes like
We are doing live classes now, yeah, and that's the
cool.
reason why. This is the reason why I'm connecting with you, because I want people to know, like, we've always been like in this space proudly, and
Hmm.
even though we've tried, like, I feel like there's a lot of I have a lot of like guests who show up and participate in the podcast, and a lot of them are in the either queer space or naked space, maybe even porn. One thing that what two things we have in common: one, gay; second is yogi.
Hmm.
And so wherever and however your yoga shows up, for me, it all gets to be here. And so finally, after two seasons, I'm like, maybe I'll try Men of Yoga online to see if there's any bites. And
Hmm.
sure enough, it's picking up traction. I think we're offering our fifth yoga class. um, well, we are offering our fifth yoga class tomorrow. Lo and behold, it's not doing well attendance wise, registration, because it's not naked.
Ah,
So what does that tell you? You know what I mean? And so
fascinating.
fascinating, right? And so here I am in front of other yogis on this show. Like as much as I'm trying to balance out the universe, like it's not naked all the time. it's the one that gets most views and people are more tuned into. So I think it's because yoga in itself is oversaturated.
Mm,
Having
yeah,
conversations with other yogis and saying, "Oh my God, you do porn. Oh my God, you're doing men's work. Oh my God, you're out in the wilderness." Brotherhood. It's fascinating. It's less competitive in terms of viewerships. With just regular yoga. So just so you know, Men of Yoga is doing its best to balance out the universe, but not a lot of people are interested in standard yoga at this moment. So,
yeah, yeah.
so yeah. So for those of you who want regular yoga, we're trying, but more naked yoga coming up.
Good.
Yeah, what's really cool about that though is we are we're finally experiencing what that global response looks like. So we have somebody who's teaching out of Costa Rica, and they're getting people who are practicing from Bali and New York and California. You know what I mean? So it's really super cool to have these people,
Yeah.
on screen, and I'm like, oh my god, Men of Yoga is working. You know, what's next? Teacher training. Hmm.
Right? Retreats.
Hmm.
Somewhere nice and
Uh,
warm, please.
oh my God. Actually, somebody asked because, what's next? I'm like, are we going to have Men of Yoga retreats? So he goes, or a cruise.
Okay. I'm gonna put my
Okay.
preference in for not a cruise.
Maybe a yacht.
Yeah, yacht, it sounds better. Yeah, cruise like makes me want to. I feel a little trapped already. I'm getting a little anxious.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. It's like, and with our luck, it's like, oh, it's the gay Titanic.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, don't say it. Mm.
Direct
Uh,
down. Here you
I,
go.
I'm censoring so much right now.
Oh,
Uh,
my, oh boy. So speaking of, so do you have any upcoming projects? Because I know that you just launched your website. Tell us a little bit about that. So you also do the
oh,
massage work. So,
you're so good at remembering things. So
oh,
yeah,
oh, absolutely.
I just did
Yeah.
launch. So I kind of got rid of my old website ages ago, and then I just launched my new website. So I'm flicking my screens to remember
Mhm.
what I called it.
Oh yeah, no, go for it. It's well,
Uh,
you said yoga and massage, and
yeah,
so
mensyogamassage.com. I had a whole technical drama like behind the scenes. I used to be quite tech savvy, and the older I get, the more boring I find it. So basically I registered a mensyogamassage.co.uk because that's of course where I'm based. And then got this free domain with my site provider, and then all of the site seems to be on the .com, and I can't seem to point anything anywhere.
mhm.
Anyway, that's all terribly boring. But I did launch a new website. Thanks for having a nose. It's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
just out there, and I'm gonna kind of look at it, update it, fiddle with it as I need. But yeah, that's my offering. So I'm offering clothed and naked yoga. So that is
Hmm.
private and group classes when I actually find a venue. And I'm also offering clothed and naked yoga massage. So those are my two offerings on that site.
Okay. Share a little bit more about what yoga massage is all about. Because for me, I'm thinking, oh, we're doing adjustments, and where there's a touchy feel element to
Yeah.
it. And so, could you just
Yeah.
share a little bit about like what that experience might look like if I were to join you?
Yeah, so it's more of a passive experience for the person receiving. So it's lying on the floor essentially. So a little bit like Shavasana, and then the physical kind of assists and adjustments. So I use my body in order to move their body. So that might be me using my hands or my arms or my legs or my whole full body. I'm just doing those simple things that we would do in yoga. So maybe we're doing twists, etc., etc. Maybe we're doing flexions, maybe we're doing extensions in the body, but just using the weight of my body against their body in order to leverage, as we would do with any kind of, or with some of those physical assists or adjustments that we give. Um,
Mhm.
but also working a little bit more slowly, perhaps, just to get into the fascia, to get into a little bit more of that fascial release stuff. Um, Sometimes I use oil and sometimes I don't use oil. So it's not really a traditional massage in that sense. And if anybody's had a Thai yoga massage, it's a little bit akin to that. But sometimes Thai yoga massage can be quite, tough. So
Mhm.
much less about activating the nervous system and more about kind of allowing the nervous system to rest.
Got it.
Um, yeah.
Do
So
you? Yeah.
so that
Do
would be
you?
lying on the back. I'm getting there. Lying on the
Yeah.
back, lying on the front, lying on the side, that kind of thing. But the receiver is much more kind of passive in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's a pop question for you. Is there
Mhm.
mutual touch involved or allowed.
You mean the other person being more active in their touch?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
it's pretty clear.
Okay.
So if somebody,
Well, yeah,
because
because
that would
there's
just
some.
be a different service that I would be providing. So I'm not providing that service for sure. People might get, so the question I get about teaching naked yoga, I don't know if you get this, is like, what if I get an erection? That's the main question that
Oh,
people ask, yeah.
here we go. Here we go.
So on my
Remember,
website,
I don't know. I just have to let you know. It's like it's just we're almost like an hour into it, and it's like the B word will always pop up. The boner.
Oh,
Let's
I
talk about
was
the
like, I
boner.
had to figure that out, the boner word, yeah. Sorry, yeah, we're almost about to finish, and now we have a boner, right, in the podcast. Good, yeah. But
I love that
that's
though.
everybody's concern, everybody's desire as well, but also everybody's concern. What if I get a boner? The other thing that people often say is, what if I'm leaky? What if
Yeah.
I start
Okay.
leaking?
Yes.
And I'm like, it's just completely natural. Just let it happen. Like, it's not really a big deal. We'll
Yeah.
celebrate, yay, but we're not going to go over grab it.
Oh my God. That right there, my friend, is going to be the teaser.
We're doing naked yoga. We'll focus on
It's
that.
so good.
Let all
You
of
know,
you be present.
I love that
Don't need
attitude.
to grab it.
Well, I sit there and I was like, be thankful. It's working.
Yeah. If you want
Oh
to
my
grab it
God.
afterwards, you go ahead, like that's
Yeah,
completely
yeah,
fine. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so
Because I
I was
think
thinking,
especially in those spaces you want to create a space where it's kind of like contained, boundaried and safe. That's the
mhm,
thing. So
mhm.
I'm pretty kind of clear about that because within that boundary people can feel liberated, but they know that it's not going to go somewhere they didn't want it to go.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
was thinking also in terms of like mutual touch, not necessarily sensual touch, but it's like when you, for instance, do partner work, right? Like it's not, I don't think it's fair. You get to touch me and I don't get to touch you back.
That's a
Like as,
that's a slightly
right.
different thing, yeah, with the partner work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I guess that's where I was thinking is like, is
Yeah.
there mutual touch? Like they get to touch you back.
In the yoga massage, it's much more passive. In a sense, they get to touch me back because there's a lot of physical contact, a lot of body contact, actually.
Yeah.
If it's a naked yoga class, then there may well be kind of touch back because I might be asking people to do things like hold this or hold my hand as I pull this or something like that
Yeah.
as I pull
Yeah.
this. I just realized how
Okay.
that sounds.
Or do this while I cough.
Oh dear, you do have to have a little humor, right?
Oh my God, you have to. You must. Especially, well, another thing is like we are gay. Like at some point, it's like we've never set up like boundaries or rules. It's like we have to kind of make them as we go along,
Yeah.
It's a trip. I have conversations with men who are younger than me, and I'm like, bro, when we were young, there's no such thing as is this okay? Like we just looked at each other, gave a signal, and before you know it, we're hooking up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Well,
it
and
is a trip like what
I mean,
how much we've
I kind of
evolved.
grew up in the same kind of, era, but I think there is it's quite an important nod to consent, to be fair. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And, especially people are thinking, oh, I guess I'm supposed to do this. Like whether you're straight, gay, like, when it comes to like a mutual respect for each other, it's like, it's something that if it's not said, it has to be definitely expressed in some way or form.
yeah,
Like, yeah, absolutely. You know,
yeah,
I just remember my own experience. It's like, man, I couldn't, maybe because I was insecure or just inexperienced. Like I had to be totally like drunk to be comfortable being with guys. Maybe it
yeah,
was Catholic upbringing, guilt, whatever. But then
yeah,
I would also realize like, oh my God, I'm like truly, I'm hammered and I don't want to be here. Like what happened?
yeah.
So
We are
anyway,
wandering into my another topic, which is would be more appropriate for my therapist hat on, which I
well, I'll invite you for
right,
our therapy, what is it, season.
the therapy
Now
scene.
that
Yeah.
we've rattled and shook the globe, let's settle that dust.
Hmm.
Wow. So, is there anything else that you would like to share? Invite people to what's the
So
best
I
way to
guess
get in
I
touch
should
with you? Yeah,
Yeah, I
do you want
should.
people to connect with you on Instagram? Like, where,
Of course.
how
Yeah.
do we follow? How do we
Yeah.
follow?
So I have an Instagram. So I have a naked yoga Instagram, but I'm very reluctant to post there just because, Instagram is Instagram. But my Twitter and Blue Sky, because I am, down with the kids, is men's. Oh God, hang on whilst I look it up. It's as if I don't know my own Twitter handle, right? Let me just double check here. Oh yeah, okay, here we go. Men's Nude Yoga UK, Men's Nude Yoga UK. That is on Twitter and also on X, formerly known as Twitter. Sorry, Blue Sky and Twitter and X, blah blah blah. It's also on Instagram, but I don't really use that very much. My Instagram is Ashley for Yoga. That's just my kind of general account. And in terms of OnlyFans, it's the same thing, which is Men's Nude Yoga UK. You can find me there as well.
Okay, so real quick for the people who are listening on Spotify, you said the Instagram Ashley for yoga.
Ashley for Yoga. Ashley, the number four yoga.
Thank you, numeric. Got
Yeah,
it. Okay, good, good,
that's
good.
how we have been chatting recently. Yeah, and then the other ones are Men's Nude Yoga UK, and that is on Blue Sky X and OnlyFans.
Good. Before we wrap up, what is your go ahead?
I'll
Oh, before
send it
you,
to you just to check.
yeah, send all of them so that I can just copy and paste. Make sure that I put that on our description, and it's
Thank
also
you.
going to pop up right there at the
Exciting.
bottom. Yeah, you guys have a little banner. Um,
Mhm.
Real quick, could you tell me a little bit more your experience with Blue Sky? Because I've been hearing a lot of buzz. I know I created an account, but are you active there? Is it like pretty? Is it a
I'm
pretty
posting
active?
there. I mean, I'm talk about growing a following. I've never been any good at that. So, if anybody
Hmm.
has tips, do let me know.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no idea. I can't really give much of an opinion. It feels like Twitter.
Okay. So you're fairly new in on that platform.
Yeah, yeah, a
Okay.
few weeks.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was just kind of curious to see like how much time and energy to put towards that in terms of like, oh, here we go again, starting from scratch.
I hear you.
Yeah. All
Um,
right.
I have to go and eat my dinner. My husband's cooking my dinner for me.
Yes. Thank you so much for carving time, Ashley. This is so overdue. Happy 4-year anniversary to us. Without
Yeah,
you,
and
I don't know where we'd be today. So I'm so happy and grateful that we're still connected and that you're still doing your thing.
and it's been really great to reconnect with you. I hope that this is the beginning of many more reconnections.
Yes, please consider joining Men of Yoga.
Yes, we'll talk.
All right, love. Have a
All right,
wonderful rest of
sweetie.
your evening.
Yeah.
Take
Good to
care.
see you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, dude, that's all for this episode. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, please remember to subscribe. And if you want to plug into the Men of Yoga community even more deeply, you can follow us on Instagram and or Facebook. Links are in the description. And also leave us some comments. Let us know what you liked about the episode, as well as what other juicy topics you'd like for us to open up and explore, because it all gets to be here. All right. So go have a great day on and off the mat, and hopefully we'll see you next time.